Real lovers, what is going on? Today we're going to talk about what may be ruining your chances of attracting men, especially those high quality men, the type of man you eventually want to marry. So let's get into it. There are a number of different things that can actually ruin your chances with men, right? There's a lot of like your environment, where you go, the type of places that you find yourself frequenting, the way you dress, your attitude, your behavior as a woman, and even your mindset as well, right? But today I want to focus specifically on what I truly believe is the number one thing, sis, that is ruining a lot of women's chances when it comes to attracting men. And that thing is approaching dating and men passively. Let me say that again, sis. Approaching dating and men passively. This is something that is so easy to do. And many women, I truly believe, do it unconsciously. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's really just kind of dive into what it means to have a passive approach to dating and, meeting and interacting with men. So when you have a passive approach to it, in my experience, when it comes to, my ladies, my sisters of faith, my Christian women out there, they tend to lead with their faith, which is not a bad thing. But what I've noticed is there becomes this reliance on their faith when it comes to the space of dating and relationships. And that actually puts them in a place where they rely more on their faith and do not put in any work. And y'all know what the script says. Y'all know what the book says. Y'all know what the word says. It tells us that faith without works is dead. And in this case, when it comes to dating, ladies, if you are only reliant on your faith and you are not willing to actively take an approach to dating and meeting men, then it's not going to produce the results that you ultimately desire. And I know y'all have heard it. I know I've said it multiple times on different podcasts with regards to, the women who have this mindset, this approach of they're always at home. They don't even really go out and about, right? And they hoping for the mailman to show up one day to come knocking, the UPS man, the Amazon man, or they feel like their husband is just going to drop out of the sky. Like he's just going to walk into their life, the man of their dreams. And let's be honest, y'all, it may happen. Like it got a it's got a 0.000000001 chance of happening, right? It may happen in that small little instance. But ladies, let's be honest. In many cases, that is a fantasy. Like the reality is a man is not just going to, and let me be clear, not a man. Let me be very specific. The man that you truly desire, the man that you want to marry, the likelihood of him showing up at your house, at your door, knocking on it, being the UPS or the delivery man, or him dropping out of heaven, or you just randomly meeting this guy. Like the reality is that is not likely to happen. So the more important thing is that you shouldn't hold all your hope and all of your faith in that specific type of interaction. Like you want to look at it from a different perspective. But I'm not saying that that's you. Honestly, I don't think that that's you. Just sitting back at the crib, hoping and wishing that God to drop a man out of the sky. Not at all. But what I do recognize, and maybe you can, attest to the fact that this has been your experience, is putting the control 100% in men's hands when it comes to your dating experiences, your interactions, and your conversations with men. That's something that I've definitely noticed with a lot of the women that I speak to, whether it be, my homegirls, my sisters, or, some of my coaching clients, is the fact that they rely on the man doing everything. And that to a certain extent, you do want the man to take action. You want him to be a leader. You want him to have initiative, but you got to recognize that as a woman, there's a part that you also have to play, right? So let's talk about this. Why do so many women tend to take a passive approach to dating and meeting men? I find that it's because it is so easy and it requires absolutely no effort. Things that are easy in life are the things that we are always going to be doing. Like we are drawn to doing things that are within our comfort zone. And for many women, it's easy to not go out and actively pursue men, not pursue men, but not actively approach dating, not actively make conversation with new and different men on a regular basis, right? That is not something that a lot of women are comfortable doing. It's outside of their comfort zone. So it's not hard to imagine why, sis, you wouldn't necessarily turn to that as the way of operating when it comes to dating and relationships. So let's talk about this a little bit, right? So the other thing that I find is a lot of women are scared, or they've been demonized into thinking that any interaction, initiating any conversation with a man is something that a woman shouldn't do. But let's be clear, ladies. Initiating a conversation or interaction with a man is not pursuing. I know that the last thing that you as a woman want to do is come off as needy or thirsty. You don't want to be operating in a space that a man should be operating in, which is approaching. Like, there's a difference between pursuing and approaching versus initiating. Like, there's nothing wrong with initiating an interaction or a conversation with a man, ladies. Like, that doesn't come off as needy. That doesn't come off as desperate. None of those things. It actually puts you in a position where you're likely to get a lot better results than the majority of other women, because they're not doing it. Y'all know I talk a lot about being willing and able to stand out will put you in a position where you will get noticed by a lot more men. So just standing out in the regards of initiating more conversations is a great way to go about doing that. So let's dive into this a little bit deeper, right? So what are the things that I find to be wrong with taking this passive approach? Like, for one, it's going to prolong your wait. Listen to me, ladies. I know y'all don't want to wait. Y'all want to meet y'all husband, y'all future boo, that man, that guy, that dude that's for you. You want to have met him like yesterday, 10 years ago, 5 minutes ago, whatever the case, right? But you're still waiting. And when you take a passive approach to dating and interacting with men, it's actually going to prolong your wait. The other thing is the results that you get. They're either going to be terrible. They're either not going to be the results that you desire, or you're not going to get any results at all. And that actually reminds me of a quote. It's a quote that says, "Only passivity can stop you from being prosperous." Think about that, sis. The only thing that can stop you from being prosperous or getting the results that you want, not just in life, not just in business, but even when it comes to relationships, dating, and marriage, is passivity. It is the only thing that can stop you from being prosperous. So that's why it's so important for you to recognize, have you been approaching dating passively? Like, seriously, just sit back and ask yourself that question. Like, do you take an active or a passive approach to dating? And don't beat up on yourself, sis. Like, I'm not here to beat up on you at all. I just want to, shed some light, grab the flashlight and point some light on something that I've noticed in my interactions, and even something that I personally have dealt with. I noticed that as a man, I was taking a passive approach to dating and relationships. I got another video that I'm going to dive into talking about that when it comes to, being single by choice versus being single by default, right? I'm going to get all into that because that is something that I can truly relate to. And I've been in this position before, dating passively, not really being active. And guess what? The results that I was getting was sucking. And in most of the cases, when you look at the results that you're getting in any aspect of your life, whether it's weight loss, whether it's the money that you're making, whether it's the type of men that you're attracting, or in my case, the type of women that I'm attracting and dating, if I'm passive, you're passive, we're passive in any of those regards, we're not going to get the results that we desire. And it's so important for us to recognize that it is 100% within our control to take action and do the things that will ultimately get us what we want. So let's kind of dive into this. I think that there are some other things that are wrong with taking this passive approach, and it puts you in a place where you are actually self-inflicting this prolonged wait. And in some cases, you may even be self-sabotaging if you're not aware of just how detrimental being passive can be when it comes to dating and relationships. And another big thing that I've noticed is it can actually increase a woman's fear of rejection. Let's be real. Like, rejection is something that we all deal with. Most people would say when it comes to dating and relationships, men have a better handle on rejection due to the fact that, we get rejected a lot more because of, being in that male position of going out, interacting, approaching women. And, not every woman is going to be receptive. Not every woman is going to be interested. So rejection, no's, all of that type of stuff, it comes along with it. But for most women, that's not the case, especially if you're not putting yourself out there, which, like I said, you don't have to be thirsty. You don't have to, be approaching men or pursuing men. But even just in your interactions, your dates that you've had with men, I'm sure that there have been instances where men either lost interest, were not interested, and that rejection, it stings. It stings for all of us. But when you take a passive approach to it, it means that you're going to have less interactions. You're going to have less of those instances where you're meeting guys and they're not interested, and you're able to kind of roll with the punches and be like, okay, this is just a part of it. Like, not every guy is going to be into you, and that's okay. And you learn how to take it a lot better. But when you're passive, when you finally do meet that guy that you're really digging, you think he might be the one, if he rejects you, like, that is going to hurt like major. Like, it stings. Like, I've talked to, some of my friends that have been in situations like that where, she hadn't been, dating or in a relationship in a while. She met this guy. She was really vibing with him. She thought everything was going well. It was a great situation and the chemistry was dope. But he admitted that, I just want to be friends. Like, it's not that you're a bad person. I just don't see you romantically. And she was crushed. Like, maybe you can relate to that as well. She was absolutely crushed, like pitted. And it's because, to a certain extent, like, she had put all of her eggs in that one basket. Like, she didn't even understand that rejection was even a possibility with this guy because of how well things seemed to be going. And, it really hurt her. But I've seen her now, years later, having had more interactions with men, and in instances like that, she's able to bounce back a lot quicker if a guy isn't interested, because it's just like, it is what it is. And that's so important to get to that place where that rejection does not just crush you, break your heart, or stall you, or make you want to walk away from dating entirely. So that's something that you definitely got to take into consideration. And I want to talk now, kind of dive into like, what can you do? Like, what if you have been taking a passive approach to dating and you want to switch it? You want to be more active, right? When you choose to take an active approach to dating, you will be able to attract more high quality men. And the first thing in doing is just being proactive, taking the time to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to seek out interactions and conversations and meet men. I'm going to make that something that I actively try to do. Also, developing yourself. I've talked about it. I even mentioned it early in this video. Standing out. When you take the time to work on yourself, you will stand out amongst other women. And I know some women feel like, I worked on myself. I got everything together. But you may be right? You may have worked through all of the major things and you're kind of good from, a whole perspective. But there may be things that you may be able to improve a little bit on, or maybe even make a tweak, or you put yourself in a position where you start experimenting and doing different things. Like, there's always something that you can actively do, even if you're in a place where you're whole and you're ready for love, you're ready for marriage, you're ready for that guy to come into your life. You don't have any unresolved issues, no baggage. You've dealt with all of the major stuff. Now it's time for you to switch into the mode of, let's experiment, let's iterate, let's make some improvements, let's make some tweaks, and, just work on your chances of standing out more as a woman. The other thing that I think is huge is when you are out and about, you put yourself in a position to be able to observe the opportunities of interacting with more men that you actually are attracted to, or you find yourself drawn to. This is something that most people do not do. I go back to myself again. I have to remind myself to do what I now call like flip the switch. When I go into a Target, when I go into a mall, when I go into a store, or wherever I'm at, I put myself in a position to say, okay, I'm flipping the switch. I'm going to be observant. I'm for lack of a better term, I'm going to keep my head on a swivel in case I'm able to identify an attractive woman in here that if I do see her, I can make conversation. I can observe my surroundings and see how can I, go over there and initiate a conversation with her. As a woman, doing the same thing when you're out and about, when you're at the grocery store, when you're out at Target, your favorite, spot to be at, and there's men there. Go in there, flip the switch and say, hey, I'm going to actually be looking to see who is in here. And if you see a man that you're attracted to, think of the environment that you're in and how could you initiate an interaction with him that's not desperate, that's not needy, that's just friendly. And that's a great way to put yourself in a position to start meeting more men, right? So you got to actively pursue those type of those interactions. And the other thing that I would say that can help you attract more men is being open to, your friends and family linking you up with people or people that you trust. Like, if there's people that you trust and they're like, I want to match you up with somebody, or they may not do it in that moment, but I've had people say, hey, like, Jay, are you open to if I meet a woman or I know a woman that I think would be a good fit for you to, pass over your information or make that connection? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. like I mentioned, though, there was a period in my life when that wasn't the case. I wasn't open to that. But when I started to shift and say, hey, I got to be more active, like that's one of the ways that I can be active is letting people know, like, yo, if you meet anybody, do that. I honestly was just having a conversation not too long ago, earlier this week, actually. And a young lady was saying the same thing, like, yo, Jay, you have a lot of interactions with different dudes. If you know any guys that kind of fit, what I'm looking for, definitely, let them know. Like, if you want to make that match, feel free to do so. So having that green light or giving the green light to people that is another way for you to be able to attract more men. And, I know I've been talking for a minute, but I really am here to help you ladies out. I see this and I want to do everything that I can to help out. I know I've been doing a lot of the short videos and the Q&A videos, but I really want to take the time to dive deeper into these topics with y'all ladies and help y'all out. So the other thing that I think you need to do when it comes to being more active as opposed to passive when it comes to approaching dating is do these things. Here's some actions that you can take. Increase the number of interactions that you have on a daily, a weekly, or a monthly basis, right? And let me actually kind of backtrack a little bit, right? Because I think it's important to note that when you are looking for a specific result in life, in any area of your life, you need to have a goal. And what I found is a lot of women do not have a goal, right? They don't have a goal when it comes to dating and relationships other than getting married. Like that's a cool goal. But then you got to recognize with every goal, you have to have a plan, right? If you don't have a plan on how you're going to get married, how you're going to meet your future husband, then I got to keep it 100 with you, sis. That's not really a goal. That's a wish. That's a wish. When it becomes a goal is when you make a decision and say, hey, I have to put a plan together to be able to execute and do what I can to bring that to reality. So when it comes to setting goals, I think I had to shift my mindset. I used to set a lot of outcome goals. An example of that is, okay, I want to get a girlfriend, or, like in your case, you want to get a boyfriend, you want to get a husband, a fiance, or you want to get married, whatever the case may be, right? That's that outcome goal. You really don't have much control over that, right? Limited control over, just making that happen. It's your actions that will ultimately allow that to happen, which is why I've learned when it comes to goal setting to switch my goals from outcome to input based goals, things that I can actually control. And in this case, dating, you can control the number of interactions you initiate with men every single week. You can control how many events you go to or attend on a monthly basis. You can control how many times you go to the gym every single week. You can start to control the experiments that you want to start working on or putting into place in order to stand out more amongst other women. And when you are around men, like these are actions that you can begin taking, goals that you can begin setting and saying, okay, hey, I'm going to set a goal of I want to make 5 interactions with new men every single week. You do that for a whole month, you've had an interaction with 20 different men. And you can't tell me that if you have a conversation or interaction with 20 different men that not at least one of them, a 5% chance of connecting with somebody and going out on a date. You do that over the course of a quarter. You do that over the course of a year, and you will get to a place where eventually you'll get married. At the very least, you'll do what we talked about in this video, which is attracting more men. So that's really what I wanted to dive into today. I'll leave you with 2 more points. The first one being, if you want to meet and enter into a committed relationship, sis, with the right guy, you have to be proactive. You have to start to actively approach dating and interacting and meeting men. And then the last thing is the actions that you can take. Start conversations with men, go out on more dates, be more observant to the men in the environments when you're out and about. Those are the things that you can begin doing, sis. I hope you found value in this video. I know I truly enjoyed sharing these things with you. If you got any questions, definitely let me know, but I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, stay blessed, live, and love life. Thank God. Deuces.